Is there any issue with the church supporting or not supporting the SOGIE Bill?
What's your stand on same-sex marriage? Meron bang space ang same-sex relationship in the church?
Hello, FRC fam!
It's Chai!
And Rap.
Yes, hindi ka naligo?
Ikaw rin nata, Chai. Pareho pa rin yung suot mo from last month's episode.
July na!
Oo nga. Pero wag kayong mag-alala, FRC fam, naligo at nag-prepare pa rin po kami. This is just a continuation of our last month's episode, LGBTQIA plus a life of pride.
Yes, FRC fam, very exciting yung naging conversation natin last month, which is Pride Month. So ngayon, na-extend tayo for the second episode. So if you haven't watched it, please do. It's on our Facebook page and you may watch the episode there. Yan!
Yes, oo. Napakaganda ng conversation natin and tutuloy natin ngayon, of course, with our guest, none other than the President of Courage Philippines, Edwin Valles.
Welcome back.
Thank you po. Nakita ko po hindi rin po kayo nagpalit. Sabay namin nila, Chay.
Thank you for inviting me.
Pantay-pantay lang.
Kunyari.
Yes.
So last episode was a lot about your personal experience of same-sex attraction and that whole area in the context of the family. So right now, actually, marami kaming mga ilang controversial questions din. Mahilig tayo sa ganyan, ano? That will contextualize that area naman in the church, in the way that we experience it in the Philippines, in a more societal level, I'd say.
You mentioned yung church and society na most often than not, we actually treat them very separate because I think different yung matters that we deal with. And I think there's also that topic of the SOGIE Bill. It's been the topic for so long already, but it still hasn't been passed. So I think a lot of our LGBTQIA+ community members would also share the same sentiment about it. You have questions, some would actually know. So maybe, Edwin, you can provide some context on what it is.
So what little I know of it, so I'm not a lawyer, no, so hindi rin ako legislator. No, so, but SOGIE stands for Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity Equality Bill. Actually, yung terminologies nito is really part of gender ideology. No? So yung paradigm that sa human person, iba si biological sex, iba si sexual attraction, iba si gender identity, iba yung gender expression. Tapos in fact, yung attraction, they distinguish between physical attraction and emotional attraction. No? So, kaya nga you have the multiple letters. No? So, kasi, ilan to? 6 factors, parang they propose na 3 vectors, no, per factor. No? So, isang male vector, isang female vector, and other vector. So, and vector is a range. So parang imagine mo yung many permutations and possibilities. And such permutation and possibility is one SOGIE, so to speak. No? So, ako siguro personally, siguro yung main issue ko with the SOGIE Bill is because it is a penal law. No? So, people will get penalized for it. No? So, for discriminating, supposedly, against a specific SOGIE or gender identity. But the problem with that is yung SOGIE is a subjective concept. Ako, I'm a male, I claim to be female, for example. No? So, it's a very subjective experience. No? So, I think yun yung dilemma for me kasi parang how can you implement a penal law where the evidence will be subjective, no? So, parang paano mo siya ina-navigate, diba? Kasi yung principle of law is the evidence has to be objective, no? So, yung parang regardless of sino yung nagpe-present ng evidence, it has to stand yung that objective standard. I remember yung mga PNP, yung mga basta members ng Armed Forces of the Philippines, they were against this SOGIE Bill exactly for that, no? So, merong criminal, male, etc. And then suddenly that criminal will suddenly identify as female. No? So parang is it the same criminal? No? So yun yung mga ganong parang practical matters.
Kailangan i-concretize.
And yun nga, subjective siya, so it's so difficult. So right now, I'm getting you're not for it.
Yeah, I think yun yung main problematic siya for me on the SOGIE Bill. I totally support na parang no person should be discriminated against. And based on mga parang pro-life people, mga lawyers na nag-study, they assert that there are sufficient laws to protect naman people. So, merong law for the workplace, for example. May law for women. May law for parang protection of minors, for example. So, they assert na all these laws are in place. So kung meron mang patuloy na discrimination, it's a problem of implementation.
Yung question ko actually is this time in the perspective of the church. Is there any issue with the church supporting or not supporting the SOGIE Bill?
I think for the church magisterium, yung mga bishops and priests, it's very clear na they should not participate, no? So parang in any active manner in such na yung mga legal proceedings. So it's actually the lay persons who do that, yung mga Catholic lawyers, etc. Yung perspective nito is that law, philosophical basis niya is based on gender ideology. No? So I think yun yung it's a different reading of a human person based on a Christian understanding of a human person. No? So I think yun yung main contention niya with in terms of perspective, no. So parang iba yung philosophy, di ba? Iba yung pananaw nila sa human person.
But what about the practical side of it? No? Like, labas naman sa SOGIE Bill would also have the societal setup of kunyari partners going into the hospital, the partner can't decide for the partner because they're not like legally not recognized basically as family. So I think papasok na rin doon yung aspect ng family in the Philippine setting, family code going against that setup altogether legally, no? So maybe you can provide some context and input on that as well.
Yeah. But because they're Catholic doctors, no? So, again, parang pinapakinggan ko lang sila on this matter. They say na parang even within the hospital setting, there are possibilities, no? Meron namang guardianship, for example, no? So that's what they say, no? So, sorry, hindi ako talaga expert on this particular matter, but yun na, sinasabi nila may guardianship, no? Ngayon, ang question is, yung blood relative, family, merong decision, parang may decision on the patient versus the partner, which is different, no? So, parang, ano yung, parang how do you settle that, no? So, parang we can say pa na, parang for many years, itong family, itong blood relative na to, parang kinick out siya, di ba? For example, no? So, and then, for most of his life, adult life, yung life na revolved around the partner, no? So, see, who has the right to decide dun sa decision, about pulling the plug, for example, in the case of the, but by Philippine law, yung family, blood is thicker than water. I think yun yung principle that we work with, no? Na, yung mga critical decision, laging mag-refer to the family. But having said that, again, I'm quoting from Catholic doctors, may possibilities rin naman yung mga same-sex partner for that. But again, I'm not an expert. I'm not a hospital administrator, so I don't know for sure. So
now that we're in the context of partners, same-sex partners, what's your stand on same-sex marriage?
Yeah, so I'm a Catholic, so I abide by the teaching in the Catholic Church on marriage, no, and the sacrament of marriage, na it is between one man and one woman. Do same-sex relationships happen like that of marriage? Yes, parang I acknowledge that, no? So for me, parang it's friendship, no? So it's a form of partnership that leads to friendship. I speak na rin for my own personal experience when I used to be active in the gay lifestyle, when I used to be, siyempre parang you fantasize about parang the relationship, no? So back then, feeling ko hindi ko rin gusto mag-marry, no? So even if I had a partner na whom I love, I never thought na parang gusto kong i-marry yung partner na yun. Primarily because I feel na our relationship is nowhere parang similar to the relationship of my parents, no, in terms of marriage. That was me, no? So that's my personal perspective. Out of my respect and love for my parents, I know it will break their heart. No? So parang feeling ko it's not something that I am willing to risk, no? So that was my personal experience. And I remember nagpa-poll sila before, parang mga man on the street interview. No? So I think, and they interviewed several gay couples. Na-notice ko na maraming gay couples na wala namang desire to get married. No? So,
but also we have to create that separation of like marriage and civil union. Kasi there's also that conversation on those two things. No, that
actually, in fact, we brought it up sa earlier episode when there was, it was Pope Francis before when he was still in a diocesan position. He was for civil union. Correct. Tama ba? Maybe we can unpackage that a bit and understand what does that mean? And is that something that the church should be advocating towards as well? Or like, is there a possibility?
I think nung when Pope Francis discerned na yun yung magandang suggestion, he was the Archbishop of Buenos Aires, so in Argentina. But I think it was really more like a suggestion. Hindi naman niya sinabi na ako as bishop, pupunta ako sa Senate or para I will push for civil union. Parang I think it was his pastor's discernment na para ma-feel niyo yung need of parang same-sex parang relationship without threatening yung marriage. Maybe yung civil union is a good compromise. No? So, I think yun yung kanyang pastoral discernment. But it doesn't mean na suddenly lahat ng Katoliko must push for civil union. So, I think we need to put that statement in context. More importantly, what does the church propose for same-sex couples? No? So, what the church holds out for same-sex couples is the beautiful gift of friendship. Kasi yun na nga, parang naririnig lang kasi ng mga tao, no. But in fact, what the church proposes is, parang if you're male attracted to another male, why don't you, parang it's okay to engage in that relationship and purify it to be a genuine friendship. And it's a value, no? So friendship, as the Catechism says, no, represents a great good for all. It leads to spiritual communion. No? So, spiritual communion, yung description na yan also applies to marriage. No? So, at least from the point of view of catechism. No? So, yung friendship is not a runner-up prize. No? So, I mean, from the point of view of the church, it is as valuable a gift as maybe parang marriage.
Chay, nasagot na pala yung tanong mo. What was your question in the previous episode?
Ayun na nga, FRC
ka pa sa
fam.
FRC fam.
So, ang question natin from the last episode was, meron bang space ang same-sex relationship in the church? And, ayun na nga, friend zone. What? Ano naman yun?
Friend zone.
Hashtag friend zone.
I'm sure maraming contentions and other thoughts on that. But, gusto ko i-highlight yung sinabi mo, Edwin, na yung friendship or the beauty of friendship, it's not something that's secondary to...
Hindi siya runner-up prize.
Hindi siya runner-up thing to a romantic relationship, if that makes sense.
But, I think our FRC fam would also have that sentiment, no, LGBTQIA plus community. Would say and question that idea of friendship na, I don't feel the same way with how I feel with my friends. So I think yun yung battle na, so paano yun? Like,
so how would you even call that friendship kung gano'n na parang there's something
ko ba yung
more?
sarili ko na, friends lang kami, kasi yun yung pwede. Ganon.
Definitely, parang yung pag sinabi ko yung value of friendship or gift of friendship, it's a journey, no? So we recognize that naman. No? Kaya nga, I think parang I preface my answer on parang to purify the relationship. It's coming also from the perspective na yung sa pananaw ng simbahan, no, reflecting on the sexual act, no, reflecting on the human body, the sexual act itself is considered a sacred gift from God. No? So, because it's sacred and it's a gift from God, parang we have to defer, diba, to how it was designed. So, and to channel our sexual energies to align towards that. So, yung channeling na yon may take time. No? So, it's a journey for people in iba-ibang stages yan. Diba? Iba-ibang speed, iba-iba yung length of time. No? So, wala namang problema yun sa simbahan. No? So, may principle ng simbahan na tinatawag na law of gradualness. No? So, every human person, parang we gradually grow into the maturity and ascent of faith.
Like you were mentioning, it's a journey. Siguro it's more of like a how-to, paano. So, what is that journey?
Pag sinabing journey, say it's a series of trial and error, is a series of success and failures. No? So parang ang konteksto na ng failure will be sin. No? So parang it's really part of that. It's part of our faith journey na, especially pagdating sa channeling yung sexual energies natin to align towards yung teaching ng simbahan or yung revelation ni God and the sacredness of the sexual act. It will take time. No? So ang practical niyan is, okay, ito yung design, nandito ako ngayon. I'm striving to get closer and closer to that. But itong journey nito is not a straight line. No? So it could be like fluctuating like that. No? But maybe parang from a bigger perspective, you're actually parang getting closer and closer to that.
But what are the boundaries? Like, what can you and can you not do? Like, of course, in that context of friendship that the church would actually acknowledge as a gift. Like, what is that? How does that look like?
So, yung boundary talaga, again, coming from the perspective that the sexual act itself is sacred, and because it is sacred, it is best practiced in the sanctity of marriage between one man and woman. So any use of the sexual faculties outside the sanctity of marriage between one man and woman is considered a sin. No? So, for sure, hindi lang homosexual act yan. No? So, sa catechism lists a whole lot. No? So, there's masturbation, there's pornography, there's premarital and extramarital affairs. No? So, yung premarital and extramarital affairs, mostly heterosexual yan, di ba? So, yeah, hindi yan necessarily na bakla lang or homosexual acts lang yan, or rape, for example, or incest. No? So, any use of the sexual faculty outside the sanctity of marriage is considered a sin. No? So, and kapag nagka-sin, the church offers yung parang the vast ocean of mercy that is present through the sacrament of reconciliation. So, may space, malaki ang space ng simbahan for sinners in that way.
And I think balik dun yung Son of God. No, yung concept na we're all Son of God. So, we go back to the church, there's always going to be that space.
Correct, definitely. Yeah.
It's part of the family of God. It's children of God. I think maganda ma-highlight yung the boundaries is basing it on our truth. Such teachings natin is whatever is sinful. And that goes beyond kung ano man yung sexual attraction natin or sexuality natin. There will be choices that we have to make if we want to choose God in the different aspects of our life. That's what I'm getting. Even from the previous episode pa, na binabalikan ko kanina pa kasi kailangan nyo panoorin.
Yes, kundi hindi nyo magigets yung mga inside jokes namin.
Maraming mga conversations talaga doon na very impactful. Babalik at babalik siya palagi sa choice naman din talaga natin yan. And that's another God-given, beautiful gift. Free will. If we choose to be holy and choose to continue to strive towards His ideal for us, then we have that capacity, guided by His Spirit as well.
I wanted to highlight chastity. Like, I think that's a very crucial element.
Scary
and
word.
like,
big word.
element into the conversation. No? But to clear it out, it is okay, it is accepted, but just be chaste.
So parang siguro ano ba yung definition ng chastity for
Yeah,
let's begin
exactly.
there, no? So it is a virtue that our reason governs passion, no? So lahat tayo may passions, no? So lahat ng tao merong, and even more specifically, lahat tayo may sexual passions, so sexual energy, so to speak. Maganda yung sinabi ng catechism na ang reading ng simbahan, either we govern our passions or our passions will govern us, no? So when I give this talk, yung example ko dyan is Lion and the Lion Tamer. No? So, we can consider yung passions natin are the lions, and yung reason natin, yung right reason natin is the Lion Tamer. No? So, either si Lion Tamer yung nagko-control kay Lion, or si Lion lalapain si Lion Tamer. So, ganun din yung relationship ng passion and reason. So, chastity is simply making sure na yung reason mo is the one governing the passion. So that we will be able to make the right choice despite any of our sexual energies. Even for young people now, ayaw naman natin na maging impulsive. Bahala na lang, no? Kung anong emotion ko ngayon or anong passion ko ngayon, parang yun na lang pwede kong gawin, di ba? So I don't think that is an orderly way of living your life.
Be the Lion Tamer.
Mind over matter.
Ganda yun, no? Yung reason over passion. Kasi very, very dangerous nga if we succumb to our passion as humans. I think that's the prudence that God wants us to go for naman na there's wisdom in God teaching us to take a hold of our thoughts, of our decisions, most especially our desires. Kasi pag ganun, yung desires nga natin yung mag-navigate ng buhay natin. Di ko alam, siguro kung ano nang ginagawa natin. Medyo delikadong thought siya to think about.
I think it's very nice, no? Kasi we're able to actually answer the big question that we all had if merong space ang same-sex relationship in the church. And I like that we were able to highlight the value of chastity, friendship being the biggest gift. Now, we shouldn't be treating it as like anything less. But having all of that, no, I think the most relatable thing that I would see in the church, and I think our LGBTQIA plus community members would actually kind of have that same sentiment, na a lot of the young people don't go to church anymore. Like, merong hesitation. I mean, it's a lot of factors involved in that conversation, but I think part of that is also that discrimination. Sometimes it's them na they're part of the community and then they would feel that people are judging them in the church na parang I should
LGBT
feel
persons,
oo,
no?
I should feel safe here. Bakit parang judge ako
May
ng
stigma.
lahat?
Yeah.
But sometimes it would also be them having friends or family members who would feel like they're being discriminated and they want to show support. So, hindi na lang kami mag-church or they have that negative feelings, emotions, impressions of churchgoers nowadays, like older people or just in general. So I think parang maybe you can provide your perspective on that.
Yeah.
How does the church come into play in this aspect?
Actually, gusto ko nga i-transform din yung question natin kanina na baka looking at it and the phenomena among the youth ngayon. Kasi ako marami rin akong nakikilalang ganun na ay, ayoko na sa church kasi ganito sila sa friends ko. Or at least that's what they feel. They feel like they're excluded. And so the question probably is like, is there a place for LGBTQIA plus persons in the church?
Siguro I'll address the answer parang towards mga church faithful, no? So, rather than the mga LGBT and their friends, no? So, definitely, I think there's a reason why the Spirit appointed Pope Francis to be the Pope, no? So, parang in his pontificate, lagi niyang ini-emphasize yung style of Jesus. Parang it is a style of compassion, it is a style of closeness, it is a style of mercy, no? So, definitely, the church faithful can grow more or can develop more this style, no? So, siguro ang challenge for mga Catholic faithful, parang masyado tayong, parang we want to be right, no? So, parang masyado yung emphasis natin doon sa rightness and wrongness of things, no? So, even more pronounced in the issue of homosexuality, no? So, I observed that as well. I remember I think 2017 na parang kami, na bash yung Facebook page ng Courage. And then parang many people were ranting about their experiences in the church. When I was reading through them, syempre scary yung nababash ka. No? But when I was reading through them, parang sabi ko nga dun sa mga Courage brothers and sisters ko, but didn't we all experience that parang in one form or another? No? So, definitely, so the church faithful can improve on that style. No? So, and siguro ang principle that we need to understand is yung homosexuality, yung gender identity, or sexual attraction, these are affective concerns. No? So, it concerns one's affections. Yung pag-i-approach mo siya from a doctrinal, rightness and wrongness perspective, you're approaching it from an intellectual perspective, di ba? So, kumbaga meron kang heart need, ang solution mo is a mental need, no? So, parang, or catechism, or ganun. So, hindi siya match, di ba? Kumbaga hindi mo na, parang siguro yung doctrine only has a capacity up to a certain point, but you're not really addressing parang what the LGBTQI plus person actually needs, no? So, yun, maganda yung words talaga ni Pope Francis. Ang kailangan niya is closeness, ang kailangan niya is compassion, ang kailangan niya is mercy.
When you mentioned the story on yung Courage Philippines experiencing bashing, anong perspective ng bashing yun? Like, ano yung
Kasi
sinasabi
parang
ng mga
meron
tao?
kaming, kasi sa Courage, we sometimes do what we call as introduction seminar, Courage introduction seminar. No? So, but before, naging Courage introduction seminar because of that episode na nabash kami. Kasi before, we used to call it as Courage orientation seminar. So, kasi parang if it's like a parang discernment weekend or parang search-in. No? So parang if you want to discern whether courage is for you, then we will tell you what courage is. No? So yun lang naman yung ibig sabihin nun. Sa amin, courage, as a Catholic community, ang path namin is the sacraments and also growth in virtues. No? So which is open for all. No? So mali yung fake news po yun.
So actually, that's another phenomenon that I wanted to touch on kasi a lot of youth today also are afraid to go to the church. Sabihin natin may basis yung faith nila, coming from Catholic background, etc., etc. Pero they feel like when they go to the church will pray the gay away from them. I think that's a very common phrase. And tama ba yung what I'm understanding? That's not, in fact, what the church is about also. Like, it's not about converting your sexual attraction, but really just navigating through it and understanding God's will for that in your life.
So hindi totoo yun. So definitely in Catholic Church, parang heterosexuality is not the cure for homosexuality, no? So parang so to speak, no? So yung homosexuality itself sa pananaw ng simbahan, it is a vice, no? So it's a tendency to sin, just like masturbation is or pornography, no? So if you pursue it, it will lead you to sin, no? So ang opposite ng vice or ang antidote of vice is virtue, no? So that's why the church preaches on chastity. So yun yung that is the cure to a vice.
Pag napanood to ng family ko, yung mga words natin today
Marami, no?
are very big.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the takeaways dapat
Yes.
nga natin ngayon na lalo na sa aspect ng discussion on LGBTQIA+, in the context of the church, we all have a lot to learn. There are a lot of realities that we need to understand, especially if we want to be able to show our love for brothers and sisters, especially who are LGBTQIA+ persons, diba? And I think the church is really learning a lot, still growing as well in terms of navigating and pastoring their people. Gusto ko nga i-express talaga yung kalungkutan ko sa yung na-mention nating reality na a lot of LGBTQIA+ persons experience discrimination within the church. And that brings them to not go to the church because that's precisely like opposite of what the church is about, diba? The church is for everyone and it hopes to cater to everyone. And siguro yun nga, that's a reflection for us, also FRC fam, sa ating church-going, how we show love to the people that are around us. Righteous over being compassionate, being prudent with the way that we show that.
And I don't think we're advocating for conversion. It's more of how do you find the virtues in your life so that you can work through it in the process. Like, diba, like our title nga for this episode is like, A Life of Pride. So, knowing how to navigate that is very important. And I think your story and also your guidance that you were able to provide to our FRC fam out there, no? I'm pretty sure we're all enlightened, we're all inspired, and we've learned a lot. Like,
Tama.
tayong dalawa sobrang dami naming naging tanong. And
totoo.
diba? And I think I find it very important that we're able to contribute to the conversation, especially coming from this FRC organization that we're a part of. And entering into the families through this episode na makakatulong tayo, diba? Parang, how do we navigate through love, work with love in this life of pride? So, I think that's a very nice thing that we can take away from this episode. And thank you, Edwin, for trusting us with your story, with your knowledge also.
We learned a lot.
Yes.
I think the Lord is using you mightily with your testimony and with your knowledge. Diba, yung credentials pa lang ni Edwin, daming theological background and a lot of excerpts that you mentioned that really put a lot of these into perspective and put pride in the context of God. Really, I think that's the point here.
That you can marry the two, actually.
Like living out our identity in the context of God. That really is the point, diba? So.
Yes, so thank you again, FRC fam, for coming, for joining us in our episode. And if you have any thoughts, comments, questions even, please feel free to comment them down below. And,
actually,
diba?
Edwin, baka you'd like to promote anything to our FRC fam?
How they can reach you?
Before that, ma'am, siguro one final message. Siguro para for the LGBTQI plus persons watching this. So, maganda yung title. So, be proud of your Catholic faith. So, itadaan natin yung Catholic faith na yun. It's really a relationship. It's an encounter. And so, parang foster that encounter. So, in the church, diba, in the sacraments, in the Word of God, so in scriptures. So, and let it guide you. So, in whatever journey that we're doing. So, if you want to know, for everyone else, if you want to know more about Courage, so you can find us in our Facebook page, Courage, so all capital Courage, and then Philippines. Facebook page, that's for Courage Philippines. And then yung Encourage, we have our own Facebook page for that. It's Encourage Philippines. And also, please watch my my podcast. Also, it's sponsored by the CBCP Media Office. When they asked me to do a podcast, sabi ko lang sa kanila, I don't want. Ang desire kasi nila is to generate more Catholic content on this topic. So sabi sa kanila, I don't want to focus on the rights and wrongs of things. Parang, I'd rather listen to stories. So that's what I feature. So many LGBTQI plus persons journeying through their faith. So, and it's as real as it can get. So you just listen to their stories. I hope you get to watch those.
Yes,
Very
please
nice.
make sure to check those out. We'll have the links available in our captions. So yun.
Yes, FRC fam. So thank you again for joining us in this episode. Again, this is Chai.
And Rap, who leave you with the wise words of Venerable Patrick Peyton that
The family that prays together stays together.
and a prayer is a world at peace.
Bye!